His character in the Vampire Diaries was one of the fan favorites, but there's so much more to him than that. We welcome today Michael Malarkey to talk about his upcoming projects, both in music and acting, as well as, of course, his character Enzo in the Vampire Diaries, along with other cool things. You were just recently in Paris for the Paris Manga and Sci-Fi Show convention. How did it feel to be back to this city and meet the fans?
It's wonderful. I always love coming to European conventions, especially because I get to go to a different country, eat different food, and meet all the beautiful fans from that particular part of the world. And I've been to Paris many times, not just for conventions, but touring with my band. And I love France. Paris is okay. All big cities are crazy. Like my time for cities is limited, but I love walking, and my favorite thing to do when I get to a new city is to just dump my bags and just move my body and see what I see, smell what I smell, and so yeah, it was wonderful to be back.
You've mentioned that in previous interviews that you've lived in Cameroon for 6 months, I believe, when you were 15. So you know some French vocabulary. Do you still remember any of it?
Un petit peu.
Un petit peu.
Back sometimes when I'm traveling there, but I'm not very good at conversing. But I can make my way around. Like if the person doesn't know English, there's a way I can communicate with my limited vocabulary and sign language of sort.
So when you go to a coffee and order like a croissant, do you order it in French or in English?
In French, of course. I'll always order in French when I'm in France. At least I'll try my best. I think it's quite arrogant to just go in someplace and just bulldoze your way through. I mean, if you can't, you can't. But I like to try.
So you did a panel with Jane Kaczmarek. Have you ever met her before this?
No, but I absolutely adore her. We got on so well. She's just an absolute diamond. Had a lot to chat about, and we were both quite confused when they were taking us to the panel. We're like, we're doing a panel together. But it was delightful and a really great way to get to know somebody, seeing how they answer questions and learning about their life and vice versa. So yeah, we exchanged contacts and hopefully we'll keep in touch. She's a great person.
You're also often invited to these conventions. You've kind of already answered to this before, saying that you like to meet the fans. But aside from that, what is your favorite thing about these conventions?
I think it's, I come from a theater background. So what's great about theater, one of the great things is that you're really a part of what's happening in the moment and including the audience's reaction and connectivity, Sometimes it's electric, sometimes it's dead. But point is, afterwards, you get to share in a round of applause and appreciate the work that's been done. And you don't get that really in television. So I feel like these conventions are often a chance to gauge audience response and give back, to the fans by being there and letting them know that they're appreciated. So.
In these conventions, you usually come to talk about your character Enzo in the Vampire Diaries, which was and continues to be one of the fans' favorite characters from the series. And it has recently come to light that you were originally supposed to be the third Salvatore brother, according to the writers and producers. Is that something that you would have preferred for your storyline?
I heard that, and I think an interview with Julie a couple of years ago or something, and it was the first time I'd ever heard that, which was cool. I don't know. Yes and no. I mean, I would have liked to have seen how that ended up. I think it could have been quite interesting. But at the same time, I really liked the fact that Enzo was on his own page. He was a bit of a renegade and had his own reason for doing everything he did. And I liked his journey, So I wouldn't change it. But it's definitely interesting to think about what could have been. gone that way.
Is there like a favorite or a line that stuck to your head from Enzo that you still remember to this day? I know this is a tough one because it was a while ago, but
Um, yeah, I mean, the one that I remember that made me laugh when I read it was I can't remember the exact line, but it was something like, I was trying to answer the phone, but my fingers were covered in blood and the touch screen wouldn't work. I think that's what the line was, something like that.
My fingers were covered in blood and the touchscreen wouldn't work.
But they always like it when I say, "Hello, gorgeous."
Temptation one. Enzo. Hello, gorgeous.
Asked to say that a lot and to write it on autographs. So
do you ever get tired of people asking you to do the British accent?
I don't just get tired of it necessarily. I mean, it kind of comes with the territory. It's you know, Elijah Wood's always going to be Frodo Baggins to a lot of people, you know, and I'm sure that there's a part of him that's like, I'm so much more than Frodo, you know, and for me, I'm so much more than Enzo the Vampire, but it just comes with the territory. People know you as that. They want to connect in that way, and you know, for a while it did annoy me because I had done a lot of other stuff and I wanted to be recognized for that stuff too, but now it doesn't bother me at all. It's part of the job.
Well, you actually had two of your songs played in the series at some point.
Yeah.
I believe it was The Greatest Trick I Know in episode 6, season 7, and Scars, episode 8, season 8. How did it feel for you to know or to hear that your music was also part of a show that you were at?
Oh, it was great. I mean, you know, it was a great way for people to realize that this is another thing I do. And you know, I feel very grateful and grateful that Julie wanted to use, especially Scars, in the way that she did. Her and Ian in that episode as well, who he directed that episode. But I was not expecting for her to include like the majority of that song because it's a long song. It was like a real centerpiece of that episode, a real moment, and. Yeah, I was incredibly honored. It wasn't something I was pitching for, you know. I was not like, hey, put my songs in the series, you know. It just kind of ended up, you know, that they realized I played, and I think they, I guess, dug the music, obviously, but it was a nice surprise.
Speaking of music, you also have a new EP on the way called Future Tense. So tell us a little bit about it. What kind of music can we expect? The process, the inspiration behind it?
I just released a little statement to people which explained a little bit about it. And I'll go into that a bit more. So I was at a point where I was starting to get a little frustrated with my normal writing process, the chords I was finding on the guitar, the way I was singing. And I just wanted to find a way to break that up. And so I thought I'd give myself what I call a handicap by not allowing myself to write on the guitar. So it was a process I'd used before for songs like Pale Blue Heart, In Love and Death, Damaged Me Deeply, from the Grave Racer sessions. And so I was interested to see if I could just do a whole record like that, or an EP. But I wrote a lot more than the 5 songs that are on this release. So I did like tons of songs like this, and then kind of streamlined it because there was a lot of them that incorporated elements of like different genres, like even hip hop and other things, you know. But they didn't quite fit for this particular one, so I cut the ones that were a little kookier. Maybe I'll do it one day, but. Yeah, it was great because I was out of my comfort zone and was constantly surprising myself. And especially when working with percussion and developing loops and messing around with different rhythms, you know, I found that really enjoyable, and like layering them and stuff like that, especially in the song Pretty Far Gone, where I've like layered different drum beats and things like that. But yeah, I wrote basically almost all the record, all the parts of it myself for the demos. So bass, drums, synth, keys, noise, vocals, obviously. And yeah, when I brought them to the studio, I ended up hiring a bass player and a drummer to come in for a few tracks and just lay down some stuff with a little more life to it, you know, because I'm not an expert at all those instruments. You know. Yeah, and I think also thematically, you know, there's a picture of city skyline on the cover. It's kind of glitched out. But I was initially saying this EP, and I didn't release this in the thing because I thought I was selling it short, but was initially saying this EP was like my hate letter to the city. And then I was like, you know what, that'll make people try to listen to it in a certain way, and I think it does a disservice to the project. But the reason I said that is because over COVID, I moved to the country, basically, and was just fed up with city living. And, you know, I've got young kids and it's hectic right now. And I just felt like we needed to get out and be in nature. And, you know, the house is surrounded by pine trees. There's wild turkeys and deer and all kinds of things. And, yeah, I think it was somewhat a natural response. Like a lot of the themes in it probably have elements of that restlessness and wanting to escape. And I think, to be honest, most of my stuff beforehand had that anyway. So maybe that's just like part of who I am. And I the more I think about it, the more I realize it's partially to do with maybe being born in a war in Beirut, you know, and being on the move from a very young age. You know, we went to Cyprus, then we went to the UK, and then we went to Ohio. And I went to like several different schools when I was growing up too. So I've kind of always had this movement in my life. And then all of a sudden, kids tie you down, right? And so it took me a while wrestling with that, about being a dad and learning how to be still and how to invest in my roots and find peace that way. And I don't know exactly how much this relates to the record, but I think inherently whatever you're going through is filtered through your art. So I think there's elements of that. And I think that's also why I wanted there to be this feeling of the city, because I'm also like fascinated with how cities, there's like a yin yang thing going on. There's the excitement of the city and there's life happening, but there's also this underbelly, you know, not just of like crime and homelessness and drugs and whatever, but just a city itself is literally built on top of ruins, right? You know, it's built on top of the crushed dreams of the people who came before, literally and figuratively. And I've always kind of been fascinated with that. You know, I can't fully enjoy a place because there's a part of me that's always witnessing that. And I think that's part of what I wanted to encapsulate, especially with like, you know, the very end of the album, you know, fool's gold forever, you know, what you love you lose, nothing gold can stay, kind of sentiment, but also surrendering to that. It is what it is. And I think finding that peace with it somehow is what you need to do. Because it's painful when you look underneath and you see what's going on.
I actually appreciate a lot the fact that you use your voice and the fact that you have an audience to precisely do that, like actually talk about either your personal struggles or even things that are going on in the world, things that you stand for.
Well, it's not art otherwise. It's not art if somebody else is keeping you quiet, you know, and it's important to experience the discomfort from that, you know. I think all great artists and musicians in the past that have been vocal about things have received incredible blowback. You know, people like Sinead O'Connor, for instance, comes to mind, and we see what happens to a beautiful artist who has dealt with those struggles. You know, it's painful, but it is the price you pay when you speak out, and you got to be ready for that. But you know, it's not art if you can't tell the truth.
Yeah, that's true. You also call your EP a dark pop experiment or a moment in time. What exactly do you mean by that? Is it by any chance related to the fact that your EP is called Future Tense, or there's a whole other meaning for that?
I don't know. I'm not overly explicit with theme. I kind of like to let my subconscious tell the story, and you guys figure it out, you know. But I also like for people to draw their own interpretations from things. But yeah, I guess I said a dark pop experiment because of the method I used to write it, and I also wanted to see what it would be like to write pop songs my way, obviously, because they're not really pop songs, but the kind of pop songs, you know, you'll hear when you hear some of the rest of the tracks as well that are a little bit more in the dark pop realm. You know, I was listening to a lot of Sade and The Cure. I mean, they're not exactly pop artists, but like filtering those kind of elements of R&B and whatever The Cure is, and music like that, David Bowie, and kind of filtering that through my lens, I suppose. And I mean, the thing is, I said it's a moment in time because every one of my records is really, it's just where I'm at now. I think all the new things I'm kind of working on are wildly different from this as well. I just follow where the inspiration takes me, and you know, whatever happens next will be what it is, and it's probably going to be a while. So this record, I decided not to tour it for two reasons. One, because I'm filming this year, and I'm trying to focus a lot more of my creative energy in the acting world, because I've never really done that. I've always had like one foot out the door, you know, one foot in the music thing, and that's great, and I love it, but I kind of wanted to see this year what it would be like if I really just pooled a lot of that energy to the acting side of things. And I think it's a good thing, you know. I feel like with the music industry and the state of it right now, I can't stand it, to be honest with you. It's grotesque. In a way, me wanting to take a step back has been a rejection of that sentiment, not wanting to do, you know, because whenever I'm getting ready to do a record, there's all this stuff you have to do and all these things you're supposed to take part in. And I didn't want to do anything for this long. I did one podcast. I didn't want to do loads of interviews, anything like that. It was an intentional choice. And I think I want to take some time to reevaluate why I'm doing what I'm doing, to listen, to wait for the vision, and allow myself to explore without a time limit. And you know, the next record I put out is going to be amazing because of that, you know. Because you know, we have to stop and we have to listen. Otherwise, we just are on a treadmill, just plugging away, doing the same shit. There's a sacred space between everything that we do, and I think I wanted to extend that sacred space and allow it to breathe, and allow myself to breathe. If that makes sense.
What do you consider it's been more challenging so far, the music or the acting industry?
Well, the music industry, for sure. Not music. Music just flows, you know. It's just how I view the world in music in a way, you know. But the industry itself has been tricky, and part of that's also because I haven't been able to fully put myself in it. Every time I've been putting records out, I've been working on other projects, so it's, you know, I can't do what I need to do to like really push that and keep the momentum going. Like I said, I hate that aspect of it, but just is what it is.
So I feel like you have also a very wide range of musical taste, and because you like bands like Rancid, Fugazi, other punk, emo, hardcore stuff as well. That can also be seen in your music because you started out as a screamer, right?
Yep.
But tell us about it. Like, how was the whole evolution from screamer up to this point in music?
Yeah, well, it's always been a natural evolution in a way, because I started off as a young punk. You know, punk was my favorite kind of music. Going to punk shows, skateboarding, hanging out, man, you know. And so you're naturally wanting to do what you know. And yeah, I played in a couple of different bands, one of which was Shady Side when I was younger. And we ended up getting back together over COVID and cutting a record. We did a 5-song EP called Higher Plans, and that was a blast getting back together with the guys. And we're working on some new stuff too. But yeah, around that time when I was playing with them, I started. Actually, it was at my buddy Travis's house, and his dad had a Tom Waits record. And I remember putting it on. We were hanging out one day and being like sitting next to the record player, just be like, "Whoa, what is this? Is amazing!" It blew my mind. And I like to say that was one of my first moments where I remember thinking, music can be whatever you want it to be. There's no rules, and it made me feel a lot more comfortable to just pick up a guitar and fuck around and see what happened, you know. I mean, I started playing guitar a little bit before then, but on electric with a distortion pedal, bar chords. But yeah, listening to Tom Waits and then discovering, I mean, I knew Dylan obviously, but you know, dipping into older Dylan stuff and more obscure things, and also Leonard Cohen and Nick Cave and those guys. And it was around then that I started writing my solo stuff for the first time. And yeah, I also felt like I wanted to be more part of the writing process. You know, when I was just the vocalist of the band, you know, I'm there waiting for them to bring songs to the table. And I wanted to just find a way to be more proactive and to be able to work alone as well. So it just became out of necessity, really. It's like I need something to be able to put these ideas down. So, you know, a little tape recorder thing, you know. You gotta push 2 fingers on the record and play at the same time, and just sit with that and record stuff over and over. And that's just how I started. And that's where the very first demos started happening. We're on like a really shit tape player with just a tiny little pin mic, you know. And there's some real magic in that.
Yeah,
you know?
I like it. I honestly like it. I feel like they're the most authentic kind of music.
Yeah, well, even like with the demos I make now, I'm often I'll intentionally do it where I can hear noises in the background, so I can have like, you know, the washing machine just going, so I'll move the microphone. You know, like the ambiance becomes part of the personality of the. There's one demo where there's Nadine screaming in the background about something, and I kept it in and I put it back in on another point, you know. There's that kind of magic that doesn't exist when you're, you know, locked in with your headphones and you're in the cave and everything has to be perfect, you know. But different styles of music require different things.
So you also have other things coming up besides music. You have been recently added to the cast of the 2nd season of The Night Agent. Could you tell us a little bit about your character, Marcus?
I can't really say much, actually, except what's been released. So, you know, but what I can say is that season 1 was a massive hit for Netflix. Really big show. It did really well. Fast-paced and great show. And so I'm excited to be a part of the next season. And the next season is even bigger, better, bolder. The scripts are just like, you know. And the cool thing about this also is that I was able to get all the scripts at once, which again, being from a theater background is amazing, because in theater you're used to like plotting your whole journey out and, picking everything apart and, whatever your method of working is, it's incredibly useful, I think, to have that whole journey. So I've really enjoyed that part of it. Also, the fella who's been cast as my cousin in the show actually went to drama school with me, which was a wild turn of events. We were on the FaceTime chemistry read callback thing, and I'm waiting for the other actor's face to pop up. I've just worked with the rest of the producers and everybody, and pops up, and I'm like, oh my god, hi! And he didn't recognize me at first because obviously beard, hair, everything's different. I had hair down to here, and no beard, so it took him a minute, but then we were like, whoa! So it was a real cool thing, and it's been nice to reconnect. His name's Rob Heaps, lovely actor, and it's been going really well so far. Kind of slow start on my end of things, but it's about to start getting super crazy. But I'm very much enjoying it. It's a character I've never really quite played before, which is always something I try to do. I play the same shit over and over again. It gets boring.
You're also part of an upcoming movie called Generate. What should we expect from your character Freddy?
So it's kind of a cameo, that one. It's my buddy's movie, and I had a blast working on that, actually. There's poker involved and very fancy houses and things, but it's a short appearance, but it was a super fun project to be a part of, and it's nice to shoot on lower budget indie films in Atlanta and to support that. I like that more stuff like that is happening, and especially getting actors like Emil and people like that to come do films like that is great. Emil's a lovely guy as well, Emil Hirsch. I had a good time on it. I never know what I can say. This is the thing with the acting stuff, is I'm always very important to secrecy, so I can only tease things, but I'm very, very clean cut in it. So it's basically, I couldn't be more opposite than the role I'm playing right now with this look. I'm trying to look as disgusting as possible, and that one is as fresh as possible.
So just to finish up the interview, is there a message of hope or words of wisdom that you would like to share with the people who are watching us?
Ooh, yeah. Sure. Well, we have the power to create or uncreate anything. And I really believe in the newer generation, and the way that they're able to connect, the passion they have for things. And I do have hope, as much as, like, even in my darkest moments, I think about that. And they're the ones who are inheriting the earth, and what on earth we're giving them. It breaks my heart. And it's like, keep the faith, keep believing, and keep imagining the kind of world that you know is possible and that you want to live in, and create it. Create connections, create community. Even if it's hard, it's fucking worth it, because we're all we've got.
I agree. That was awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for taking the time to talk with us today. It's been great.
Thank you. My pleasure.
But it's never wise to fight the wall.